Hello, everyone. Welcome back to NFA Live. It is here on Coin Bureau Clips once again. It's been a while, so welcome back. Thank you for joining. I am, of course, joined by our two stalwarts of crypto, Rob from Digital Asset News. Welcome, Rob.
Hello. Thanks for having me back.
It's great to have you. And likewise, Ben from Into the Cryptoverse. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks for having me as well.
Good to see you guys again. Quick note for a couple of quick things for everyone watching. If you don't already follow Rob and Ben, then you will find links below where you can do that. I highly recommend it because they are awesome, and they both cover, they cover kind of different aspects of this wonderful crypto universe of ours, and I highly encourage you to give them a follow, Twitter, YouTube, etc. So that's the first thing. Also, one of the things we want to do today is answer some of your questions. I've come up with a few talking points that we're going to discuss over the course of today's stream. But if you guys have questions for Rob, Ben, and dare I say myself as well, then please do leave them in the comments, and we will set aside some time at the end to answer a few of them for you. Okay. So let's kick off. Before we get into the sort of meat of the discussion, as it were, Ben, can I ask you just to give us some quick thoughts on yesterday's Fed meeting? It was obviously the one that kind of the markets seem to have been waiting for. So yeah, what are your thoughts on what happened, on what was said?
Oh yeah, if you could throw my screen up really quick. Honestly, Powell basically came out and said the same thing he's been saying. I think the only thing that the markets weren't sure of is if they were still going to proceed with 3 rate cuts this year, because inflation hasn't really gone down, and the economy's still doing fairly okay according to some of the metrics. So I think some people were a little curious if those 3 rate cuts were still on the table, and it turns out that they are. If you look at the dot plot in the summary of economic projections, the Fed is still more or less predicting or projecting that they will cut 3 times this year to 4.75%. So that is sort of the base case, I think, to go from 5.5% down to 4.75% by the end of the year. What's interesting is in 2019, they went from 2.5% to 1.75%. So very similar schedule, just 5 years later, and it's at much higher rates. So I think that was something that the market was pretty happy to see that the 3 rate cuts were still on the table. The only other thing that really changed was that the probability of a June cut increased. Previously, if we just sort of look at what the odds were previously at the June meeting, you can see like a month ago the odds were like 52%, a week ago 54%, a day ago 67%, and then now today the odds have gone up even more, so that the odds of a rate cut in June are now 68.5%. So I mean, it seems like we're likely going to get 3 cuts this year. If they don't do it at the May meeting, then you essentially have 5 meetings after that to get 3 cuts in. So my guess is, if people remember, like when they were pausing rates or getting to the end of it, they hiked and then they paused and then they hiked again, right? And then they paused, right? So they kind of just sprinkled them in. So maybe that's what they're going to do here, right? Like cut in June, nothing in July, cut in September, and then probably nothing in November because of the election. They probably don't want to be seen as messing with that. Well, people are going to accuse them of that anyways, right? But so I'm thinking maybe cut in June, cut in September, and cut in December seems to be the most likely outcome. Other than that, I mean, there really wasn't a lot of other major surprises. Basically, Powell just saying the same thing he's always said, that inflation's too hot, that the economy's still doing well. And, he basically said that while they're aware of stories related to cracks in the labor market, he doesn't think that the labor market is showing those cracks just yet. He did acknowledge that, some things like quits and hires aren't really looking, they're sort of going back to where they previously were pre-pandemic. But yeah, I mean, basically just more of the same, to be completely honest.
Yeah. And the crypto market seemed to have been kind of waiting for that, didn't it? Because we saw the dip earlier this week, and the Fed seemed to be the thing that everyone was worried about. There was, I guess, slight concern after those inflation prints from the week before that maybe Powell would be a bit more hawkish than he turned out to be. But as you say, Ben, he kind of stuck to the script, really, didn't he?
Yeah, I did. I think, and that's why you see a lot of, I mean, everything's up across the board, right? The stock market's up, crypto is up, even gold, right? Even gold put in new all-time highs. Like a lot of these things just sort of moved back up on the news. I think the market was pretty happy to hear that the 3 cuts were still on the table.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Ben. Okay, let's move on from Powell and the FOMC then, because as you say, Ben, not an awful lot changed. But one thing that we've been wondering about here is another thing that you've mentioned in the past before, Ben. This idea of the marginal buyer. We are in this stage now where we're kind of waiting for these marginal buyers, for these new retail buyers to enter the space. There is some evidence to suggest that they are starting to come back. Things like, crypto exchange apps becoming more popular. We got Google searches for buy crypto creeping up. I think, Ben, you've got the data on your wonderful website that shows that, for instance, views of channels like ours are starting to creep up again after a long time of sort of going sideways or down. But anyhow, that's kind of beside the point. My question to you guys, and Rob, I want to start with you on this one, is what needs to change? If you could change one thing about the crypto space, is only one thing about the crypto space as it currently is, in order to make it a more attractive proposition for these people who are currently still on the sidelines, for these new buyers, what would it be? And if you want, I can rephrase that, like, what is our biggest collective failing? So Rob, we'll start with you and then go on to Ben.
It's a tough question to narrow it down to like one thing, because some people will say, like, I think it was the founder of Solana yesterday or a couple of days ago, until he says stop buying meme coins. It really does, and I think even Ben put out a tweet that said, when you talk about buying meme coins, it really not disgruntles, but is a kind of a kick to the developers that are working really hard on like legitimate projects, and it kind of hurts the whole thing. So I was looking at that, and I thought to myself, it's a good point, but there's like a flip side to that, which is, if we take a look at like the total market cap, like on CoinGecko, it's got the total meme coins market cap, and it's 55 billion, which is, it seems like it's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, in 2.6 trillion right now, whatever else it is, it's a drop in the bucket. And then I think to myself, well, who is it for me to say, like, if you want to gamble, go ahead and gamble? That's essentially what it is. So I thought about that. I'm like, that would be nice to get away from that, but let's be honest, no one's going to. People aren't going to do that. And then one of the other things that I thought about, and this was a comment that we had talked about last week when it was me, Ben, and Jessica. And one of the things that came up was there was a debate. It was Raoul Pal, and he was debating Peter Schiff. And I was just saying, like, I don't know why we give this air. I don't know why this goes. And it seems like we keep doing the same things over and over again. She said, would you debate him? I said, sure. And I thought about it. And like these types of things in the markets, I'm like, why would I debate somebody when it's like, why don't we just get a flat earther on the air and start to debate, like, is the earth round or is it flat? You keep getting the same thing and these same people that kind of come into it. And I'd like to see less of that, and us to discuss like how we can actually bring the whole market forward as far as really good projects, instead of giving airtime to people who don't want to get it. And even if they did get it, they wouldn't say it because it hurts against what they're actually trying to push, whatever their narrative actually is. So I wish we could get away from that, because it's useless. And that's one of the things. And then that would be, I guess, one of those things. Let's just try to focus on our market, because like Satoshi says, if you don't have time to understand it, I don't have time to explain it to you. Sorry. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there is this. there is this sense it's kind of endless sort of repetition of the same arguments, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how many people have debated Peter Schiff. He seems to, you know, relish coming on and having this same old argument, gold versus Bitcoin, again and again. It's yeah, I think we definitely need to get past that. Ben, what are your thoughts? Do you want me to share your screen, by the way?
Sure. I think with Peter Schiff, I think he just he knows that if he puts Bitcoin in his tweet, it'll get a lot more traction because like all of us are going to go over there to respond to it. So like he's probably playing chess to some degree. Like, I mean, I think he's fully aware that, I mean, I think there was an interview recently where he admitted that he obviously had wished he bought, you know, but a long time ago, right? Like, you know, 10 years ago when he first started talking about it. But yeah, it's sort of like the same tired old argument, you know, like Bitcoin. I mean, gold is up what, like 20% or something over the last decade. I mean, Bitcoin's up 20% like since last month. You know, I mean, it's yes, like yes. I mean, I think everyone recognizes that there will be phases where gold outperforms Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has been by far the better investment over the last decade. Yeah, you mentioned the whole social stuff, so I thought it would be a good time to show this. This is new YouTube views to these different crypto YouTube channels. And so you can actually see that there has been an increase recently, right? All the way up, averaging around 1 million views collectively amongst all of these channels. So that's a nice little spike. It is starting to sort of fall a little bit, but not a ton. Maybe if we look at a 3-day moving average, you can see it's still averaging over 1 million. So there definitely have been some new people to the space, which is interesting because that's what normally happens when we hit new all-time highs, right? Normally Bitcoin hits new all-time highs, and then new people come back. And sure enough, or new people come and sure enough, right, as Bitcoin hit new all-time highs, that's when you see this spike on people looking at these YouTube channels. And if you look at the social risk, what's crazy is, you know, people compare this to 2021 and 2017. But, you know, in terms of social activity, again, price is above, or I guess price is right around where it was back in 2021. But retail interest is not. I mean, and that's sort of the thing to watch here is it going to come back or not? So I think like some of the things that Rob mentioned, I would echo. I mean, like I think the whole meme coin stuff, it's a tough topic to talk about because if you say any negative things about it, obviously there's everyone who bought the meme coins who says, well, you're just coping. And I mean, it's sort of like a casino, right? It's sort of like a casino, and I'm not like, I don't want to step on any toes there, but I do think, yeah, I've seen a lot of tweets recently from people saying things like, you know, basically along the lines of, like it's discouraging for them to, you know, to basically work on various projects, whether they have a token associated with them or not, right? Just to be a developer in the space to try to, you know, raise capital and you know, and grow the space, only to see some person who created a meme coin last week, you know, basically pump it up and then dump it on everyone and you know, frankly, make more money than the actual developer is probably ever going to make in 10 years, you know, but to do it in such a very short period of time. And so I think that is really discouraging a lot of people right now. So I think that would be, you know, I think it would probably encourage a lot more developers to develop real things if the asset class could focus on that. But instead, it just seems like it's all about, you know, the meme coins and what's the latest thing that's pumping. So I think that discourages. And the reason why you need developers, right, is because you need real utility to actually get to real world adoption, right? Where like, you know, our parents are using crypto and like, you know, the people that would never otherwise use it, they get to the point where they're actually using it because it provides real utility. And that's where I think, you know, we're sort of lacking a little bit. I'm not saying there's no utility. It's just that I think there would be more development in that area if meme coins weren't sort of the talk of the town on a daily basis. And it actually, there was if you could put my screen up one last time, there was a tweet I saw by TXMC Trades. And I thought it was kind of interesting. And I mean, again, like this stuff can take years to play out, right? I mean, this sort of thing you could have looked at, you know, in the ICO mania of 2017, you could have looked at it 1,000 different times. When you think about meme coins, you know, we're not the first people ever to think that we can just use like frothy meme coin or just sort of stuff that probably doesn't really hold value over the long term to sort of make money. And here was an example. Back in 100 BC, they basically let people cast their own metal coins. And I think the hard part is how do you go from that rampant speculation on the sort of the stuff that doesn't really matter to focus people on what does actually matter. And that's why I think within crypto, like obviously Bitcoin matters, and obviously there's a lot of other cryptocurrencies that are doing great things, but that's why I think when it comes to meme coins, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. So I think occasionally rolling those profits back to things like Bitcoin isn't the worst idea in the world, because otherwise you're going to be here in 2 years wondering, where did all those meme coins go? So yeah, I think I would just echo a lot of what Rob said, and say, yeah, we just need to focus on real utility. And look, the memes are always going to be there. I don't think there's anything anyone can do. They're always going to be there. But I think if we can just focus on developing real utility, that will help sort of push the asset class forward and bring a lot more people into the space.
Yeah. Wise words. Can I just want to add another little bit to that question of attracting new people to the space, and kind of flip it on its head a bit. Are we perhaps sort of worrying a bit too much about our image as an industry, attracting new people? And should we instead be thinking more about things like liquidity, and the fact that household debt is really high? I know it's really high and rising in the United States. I think that's the case probably for a lot of other countries as well. I think it's certainly true in the UK. Interest rates are high in the US, the UK, and loads of other places as well, kind of around the world. So should we perhaps be thinking more that actually the reason we haven't got new people joining the space is that people haven't got any spare cash? There isn't spare money lying around to invest in something that is still, where meme coins or not, still an enormously speculative asset class. Rob, do you think that's probably more of a thing, or really is it kind of, or should we be sort of more focused on our image as an industry?
Well, it's a good question. And it really comes down to two things. Do we have enough liquidity? If you look at the world markets, I mean, just take a look at real estate in its entirety. You're looking at $300 trillion plus in the world. If you look at the entire stock market globally, you're looking at over $100 trillion. You can just take a look at all the different asset classes. We'll take gold, $12.5 trillion. There's no reason why the money that's in those type of asset classes can't flow into projects. The problem is, and you hit it on the head, Guy, which is, and Ben said the same thing, where's the utility? Where is the actual part that people say, I got to use this? And there was a story yesterday that I covered, and I didn't really think about how there actually was utility until right now when you said that. There is a company, I believe it's in Washington, and it's a coffee company, and they partnered up with Coinbase to use USDC as a stable coin so people could pay for coffee, which when I first read that, I'm like, that's stupid. Because why would you use USDC on Ethereum rails with the massive amount of layer 1 fee that you're going to have? Like, that is dumb. However, when I went to Coinbase and I was actually able to use USDC, here, I'm just going to show you. Dude, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And I'm going to tell you why this, I think, could actually be a big deal, because it actually has real utility. So look at this. So when you go to Coinbase, right, and you have USDC, if you click on send, because you're going to send it to somebody else, you've got options now. It's not just Ethereum, which is $10, I might add, to do it on layer 1. But if you use Base, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Noble, Optimism, and I think down here is Solana and stuff like that, you can send it for free. I used USD, and I did it on Solana because I had to send it to somebody else. The only reason I knew is because I had to send somebody USDC on Solana. I'm like, really? All right. So I did that. It was free. I did that. I tried that same type of operation on Uniswap. Of course, it's only layer 1 solution, and it was $7. I even tried that on Tangent, and it was $8. Why is this a big deal? Because you're like, well, who cares, Rob? Because who cares that they're using USDC? If you are a shop owner and you are using transactional payments, you either are using Stripe, you're using PayPal, or using a third-party proprietary system to actually pay for that, to actually collect those payments. Visa, MasterCard, whatever else. That is 3% plus 3 cents per transaction. You can get lower rates, but if you can do that for free and just use stable coins, and oh yeah, you're going to give somebody like, hey, if I can do enough of this on my business, I will give you a free cup of coffee or a free tin, whatever the heck it was. It doesn't really matter. And then they can come back and be like, hey, I like this place because, you know, you gave me something free. And they're like, I like you because you use crypto. And then everybody wins. And I think in that situation, I know it's not like the most earth-shattering thing, but I see like there was actual utility and use case. And for me in my business, I'm definitely going to offer that option, but we'll see who takes me up on it.
Yeah, it's good that Coinbase are putting those sorts of things in place, aren't they? Because I mean, you know, I remember when I first got into crypto, one of the first things that I learned about when I sort of looked into TradFi, you know, and what crypto does with TradFi, the fact that when you pay with your card, you know, you think, oh, I'm, you know, in fiat currency, you think, oh, this is free, I'm not paying anything for this, but you are. It's like those costs are hidden, but they've made everything more expensive. So for crypto to come along and, you know, for it to be offering something different, then it has to give us that. It has to give us that saving, doesn't it? Otherwise, it's just the same thing, or worse. If you're using the Ethereum mainnet and you're paying like $10,
Well said.
$10 is pretty good for using Ethereum at the moment. I'd have bitten your hand off for that a few weeks ago, but yeah, it is crazy. But Ben, I mean, is there anything you want to add to that, Ben? I mean, I guess, you know, is it an image thing, or do we sort of need to offer something more?
I mean, I think there is utility here already, right? It's not like there's no utility. It's just that I think there could be a lot more. I mean, think about like the utility the internet offers, you know, say out of the .com stuff compared to crypto, right? I mean, crypto offers utility, but not everyone in the world is like addicted to using it, or at least a lot of people, and can't imagine their life without it, right? I think a lot of crypto investors, not all of them, I think there are a lot that are really plugged into sort of the DeFi space and all that stuff. But I think a lot of crypto investors, like as far as their crypto experience goes, it doesn't really go beyond just buying it on an exchange, right? And that's just kind of what I think most people do. But when you think about like the internet, it's not like the only interaction that people have with that is to just go buy an internet stock and forget about it. Like, no, they're using the internet every single day, right? And if you think about it, like in crypto, I do think there are some issues with, you know, like, and I think we're getting better, but like sort of interoperability between chains. Like if you think about it, like right now, I'm on a MacBook Pro, right? And I don't even know what you guys are using, but it doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter what you're using. You could be using, you know, Linux. You're probably not, but you could be, right? You could be on a Linux operating system. You could be, you know, running Ubuntu, or you could be running Windows, or you could be running all sorts of things. And it doesn't affect me at all. And it doesn't affect anyone watching us at all, because there's just, you know, there's sort of interoperability between all these different things. With crypto, like, you know, again, we're getting better. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. And in fact, in 2022, I met several people that were working on sort of these, like, you know, these solutions that would allow people, you know, to sort of easily change between chains and whatnot. But I think that's ultimately where we need to go, where like it doesn't matter if you're using Ethereum or Solana or Avalanche or, you know, whatever. At the end, no one really cares, or it doesn't matter, because you're still basically connecting with everyone else, you know, no matter what. And I think that is something that we'll have to look forward to, and is already, I mean, you know, being developed, I think, to some degree. But yeah, and I think I do think, you know, there are some issues with sort of like, you know, like I think that with sort of the economy and stuff, I do think that could be keeping people a little, you know, to some degree out. I mean, like if you think about 2021 and how crazy it was, you had a lot of things, right? I mean, not only did you have a ton of money printing, right? I mean, a ton of money printing, but you also basically had everyone locked up at home, you know, and people couldn't go anywhere. And so what better thing to do than to just go on YouTube and watch, you know, chess tournaments, right? I'll maybe talk about crypto, right? But, you know, like, I mean, actually the chess community grew a lot back in 2021. A lot of communities grew a ton in 2021. It was not just crypto. It was like a lot of these online communities because no one had anything else to do, you know? So I think like there's sort of the state of that. I think like back then everyone was locked up at home. Everyone wanted to just kind of like look to see what was going on. And yeah, and also, I mean, with, you know, with things like, you know, certain macro things sort of slowly trending up, I think some people are a little bit more cautious than they were in 2021. But I mean, that will eventually come to pass.
Yeah. Ben, I've got to ask now, after you said that, is the chess community as anywhere near batshit mental as the crypto community, or is it?
Funny, because there's always drama. There's always a lot of drama there too. I mean, I think there's probably more drama in crypto, but I'm sort of only half joking, and I've said this forever that once my YouTube channel hits 1 million subscribers, I'm just going to convert it into a chess YouTube channel, and then all the chess streamers are gonna be like, "Who the hell is this guy?" You know, like, how did he get to 1 million? And there are a few YouTubers, chess YouTubers, that already have, you know, like over 1 million subscribers. But yeah, I mean, like it's really cool because there's like all these different communities, and it's funny because like the communities change, but people are the same, right? So there's drama in all of them, right? There's always like, well, can you believe that he said that about that person? You know, oh, can you believe that they think that guy's going to win the tournament? No way. It's the same thing as crypto. You know, it's just people are talking about different things.
People, but there are just some people who just live for being outraged online, whether it's about chess or crypto or whatever. Wow, that's quite a rabbit hole to go down. Okay, let's move on. I think we could talk about this for hours, really. But let's move on with some of the other things I wanted to talk about. So I'm noticing at the moment that, you know, as the market hots up and things just generally get more interesting, and there are loads of new projects coming online, and loads of new tokens being released, my eyes are starting to get a little bit bigger than my stomach, and I'm sort of having to restrain myself from buying everything, you know, that comes across my radar. So can I ask you guys, is there in your mind an ideal portfolio size in terms of how many different coins and tokens you hold? What's the upper limit? Is there an upper limit? And you know, what is it for you guys? Rob, can you start? Because I know you dabble in, you know, you've got holdings of quite a few different projects, different coins and tokens, etc.
Yeah. I mean, it's a question that is I can't say it's for any one individual, and they should have, you know, 2 coins or 5 coins or 20 coins. I just think it becomes down to your risk tolerance and your ability to, like Ben said, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So like at some point when you have, and I always remember this, I did a meetup a couple of years ago here in Puerto Rico, and it was 2022. It was the worst of the bear market. And one of the guys that was there, he's like, "Hey, I got this portfolio. What do you think?" And he showed it to me on his phone, and it was just altcoins, bizarre, like shit coins that you've never even heard of. One was like Floki. One was Shiba Inu, and some other stuff I'd never seen. And it was over $1 million worth of stuff in there. And it was I know it was over 50 coins. So that was in 2022. Can you imagine what just that aspect of it would be worth right now? Probably a boatload. And now, having said all that, and as we talked about meme coins and things like that, the question then becomes like, you know, what does it actually do for us? And really does nothing. It does nothing. It's just a, you know, number go up type of situation. But for me, like, I look at it as like, you know, if you want to, this is what's great about our show. Ben is like, look, Bitcoin makes things a lot easier. You don't have to stress so much. And it's true. If we all just would have bought a little bit of Bitcoin, we wouldn't have to think about, oh my God, did you see what happened to XYZ coin last night? It went down 20, 30, 40%. And then there's the flip side is like, yeah, but you missed on all these gains and so on and so forth, but then it doesn't really do anything. So for me, I can't answer that question about, you know, what it is. It's all about, you know, the individual and what the risk tolerance level is. For me personally, I know I've got over 80 different tokens. And the reason why is because I've got stuff from like way back in 2017, which is essentially dust. that I will definitely get rid of this time. So I did a poor job in 2021 of selling, and hopefully I can do a better job this time.
Yeah. Okay, well, from someone who has around 80 coins and tokens in their portfolio, I want to switch to someone who has, I think it's fair to say, kind of Marie Kondo'd their portfolio in recent years. So Ben, for you, is there a kind of upper limit that you think when eventually you do buy altcoins, if indeed you do? Are you going to be quite strict on keeping a limit? Is there only so much mind share that you can give, or are you basically gonna ape into everything moving like Rob?
Well, I mean, like Rob, I still do have some alts from the prior cycle, like back in 2019, 2020. I was sort of getting into some of those altcoins. And then a lot of them did really well. I mean, like Chainlink did really well, Cardano did really well, Avalanche did really well, Polkadot. They all did really well, right? So, and again, it's sort of like what Rob said. I mean, you never truly. There's always some like they're sort of like scattered amongst like all these various wallets, right? That it's kind of hard to clean up after enough time goes by. I'll give you two answers. So like, first of all, 2019 Ben. Right. So the Ben that was willing to take on more risk than the Ben that exists today. I said about 5. I think 5. And if you could share my screen, I think about 5 is the right answer. And one of the reasons is because if you look at like this is a Spearman correlation coefficient matrix. A lot of these, it basically just shows you the correlation between like, a lot of these different cryptocurrencies. And you can see that most of them are all very highly correlated. This is over the last 365 days. If you look at it over, say, like the last 60 days, the last 30 days, I mean, it looks like this one isn't doing that hot considering that all the other ones are green, and we know they've gone up. But I mean, you can see that like they're all very highly correlated to one another. So you don't necessarily need like 100 to get the large move in the market, right? I think like, and the reason why I say about 5 is because if you do have like, let's say you have 100, and if one of them goes up 10x, or let's say you have 10 and one of them goes up 10x and the other 9, go to 0, then you're back to where you started, So it's really a good idea, I think, to sort of focus on which ones you actually think are going to stand the test of time and to focus on those, right? Because if you spread yourself too thin, it really dilutes, sort of the winners. I mean, I guess the counterpoint is if you just sort of like, just put like a little bit of money in 1,000 different things, like you're probably going to hit something that does really well, but you probably wouldn't have put nearly as much money in that one because you put a lot of money in 100 different other things. So I mean, back then I said about 5. Before that, I mean, if you had asked me in 2016, I would have probably said like 20. So it's funny because I kind of went from like 20 in like 2016 to like 2016, 2017 cycle to like 5 last cycle. And then this cycle, I basically just said, like, I don't want to deal with the stress of all this altcoin stuff. I think that Bitcoin is going to reclaim a lot of the market share. Therefore, I'll just stick with Bitcoin. I think it really depends on what your risk tolerance is, right? I mean, I think for some people, they have a much higher risk tolerance. They want to gamble in the altcoin casino more. And other people are just like, you know what? I'd rather just stick with Bitcoin and call it a day. And I mean, look, Bitcoin is up 4x from the lows, right? It's not like it doesn't give good returns. It's up. It's actually up more than Ethereum is. And it's actually done pretty well, right? Especially over the last year. And if you think about it, like, what has hit a new all-time high, right? Bitcoin has Ethereum? No. Solana's done really well, still hasn't hit a new all-time high. Now we can cherry pick and say, well, yes, if you bought it all at the bottom, that would have been better. But the reality is that most people didn't do that. Most people sort of like bought it at the peak. They bought it all the way down. They maybe sold the bottom and then they started buying it as it went back up again. So I think that's sort of the real reality of what normally happens. And you can see that Bitcoin has reached new all-time highs. And again, I'm not saying that the altcoins won't. In fact, I'm sure some of them will. but it's just that Bitcoin has gotten to that milestone quicker than the altcoin market, and that's why, you know, I've just sort of stuck with Bitcoin.
Yeah. I've got to say, Ben, I'm noticing a worrying trend here. You know, you've gone from 20 in 2016, 2017, down to 5, down to 1. Does this mean that the next cycle you're basically going to be holding only gold, and you and Peter Schiff are just going to be doing live streams together?
No, I could
in between streams about chess.
I could see myself becoming like Peter Schiff, but with Bitcoin, meaning like 50 years from now. Like I'm just going on about why, you know, how everyone should have been in Bitcoin, and it's only up like 20% over the last 10 years or something. At like, you know, like all these other altcoins, or maybe some new asset class is doing really well. I think you can kind of understand how people like that are created, right? Like they live through like these crazy bull markets, right? Gold had crazy bull markets in the past. They saw what it was capable of. And then they're always waiting for that to happen again. And I think that's essentially what happened to Peter Schiff, right? He saw these major bull markets in gold, and he's just waiting on for that to come back. So I could see myself becoming that. I mean, I'll stick with Bitcoin. I mean, I think that I understand the long term, you know, sort of the prospects of Bitcoin much more. I mean, honestly, I like it better than gold over long periods of time. I think it will probably outperform gold. I mean, it's already outperformed gold a lot over the last decade, and my guess is when we look back in 50 years, it'll probably outperform gold over those 50 years. So I'll definitely stick with Bitcoin, and I think that there will come a time where I will be more interested in Ethereum. And I know that a lot of people are like, well, I mean, you know, it's back to $4,000 or wherever it is right now, 3,500, but it went to 4K, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is up. I have some from, you know, that I bought back in like 2019, 2020, but I still go back to this idea that, you know, it's all about opportunity cost, and the ETH Bitcoin valuation has gone down since the merge, right? I mean, like, you know, you still would have been better off buying Bitcoin than buying Ethereum over the last 2 years. And that was why, briefly, I know I'm kind of going on my soapbox at this point, but that was why I was talking about there's all these narratives about like what's going to do better, or what's going to do better in the bull run. And people keep saying, well, you know, in the bull run, Ethereum's going to outperform Bitcoin. I'm like, well, I mean, we've been, you know, Bitcoin put in a low back in late 2022, right? So it's basically been up only since then. And the ETH Bitcoin quarterly returns was negative in Q1 2023, negative in Q2, negative in Q3, negative in Q4. Now it's 2024, negative in Q1. I mean, again, this is one of those things where like there is a narrative out there that people say, well, Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin in the bull run. And then there's the reality of, well, when is that going to happen? Because we're now 5 quarters in a row, right, where it's red. Again, I'm not disputing that it won't ever outperform Bitcoin. I think it will, right? But I think going back to the very first question that you said, I think you have to go back to looser monetary policy, right? Once the Fed starts cutting rates, and we go back to QE, that's when you'll probably see this table start to turn green. So it's not that I hate Ethereum. It's just that I prefer Bitcoin when a higher risk asset like Ethereum is bleeding to a lower risk asset like Bitcoin.
Yeah. I guess as well, you know, whether you're Peter Schiff with gold, or you know, Ben Cowan with Bitcoin, or you know, someone else with Pepe. Like, I think there's people are naturally going to have a bias. Like, if it's worked for them, if they've made money from it in the past, then they're going to stick to it, I guess. You know, and I think that explains, as you say, Ben. I think that kind of explains Peter Schiff's position and Peter Schiff's reasoning. Like, gold worked for him; he did well out of it. Like, he doesn't. Like, obviously he gets some kick out of being a kind of Bitcoin contrarian or a Bitcoin skeptic or whatever you want to call him. But like, you know, gold has done well for him. Like, why shouldn't he stick with it? Like, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as we say.
Well, and here's the thing, like if Bitcoin were to go through a period like gold for like, you know, 10 years, would we all renounce it, or would we just keep saying no? Like, just wait, it's going to do what we probably would just say no, like just wait, it'll do well again, just give it time. Like, that's basically what he's doing with gold. Probably what people would do with Bitcoin too, if it ever experienced something like that.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on then, because I want to get. There's a couple more things I want to cover before we take people's questions. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot, and is a big talking point in crypto in general at the moment, is this idea of trading narratives and trends. It's difficult, obviously, to focus in on individual projects. So narrative investing is a big thing now, whether that's the AI narrative or the restaking narrative or the decentralized physical infrastructure or whatever it is. Like, narratives are big. So my questions to you guys, and Rob, I'll start with you first. Are there any particular narratives or trends in crypto that you think are perhaps overrated? Or, is narrative investing something that you've been paying much attention to? And are there ones that you think maybe have got a little too much mind share than they deserve?
Yeah, well, I'll make this quick. Like, I always thought there was 3 narratives to pay attention to, and it was AI, DPIN, and DEXs. And I thought, because just the problems with the centralized exchanges, we see Coinbase go down. But then when that example I just gave you, with Coinbase versus Uniswap versus my cold wallet, you could see that, in all honesty, the centralized exchange was doing a pretty darn good job. Now and then I will say, like, on some of these other decentralized exchange platforms, like, I just got a message yesterday. Somebody was looking for a project called Aether, AETHIR. It's a AI DPIN play combined together to use the excess of GPUs for computational power to power AI industry, right? New company just came out, just in project. And they looked for that ticker on Uniswap, and they found it, and it wasn't the right one, and they got scammed out of some money. And it wasn't, and thankfully he only put in $200 because, he's not an idiot. And he just put that in and he lost it all. So imagine if you do something like that. So, like, I think, like, some of the narratives, maybe I'm wrong on the DEX side of it, but I do see massive upside for, and there was one more, Web3 gaming. Although there are so many Web3 games coming out, it's hard to kind of keep them in there. The DPIN infrastructure. If you want to save money, it's the best way, as far as, like, even like cloud computing, like you talked about with Akash and even File Network and stuff like that. And then for not Web3, for just AI in general, because that's where everything's going. And that actually, there's a reason why, like, Near Protocol did so well recently, is because they sat down with the founder of the microchip company, the big one that just, God, I'm losing my thought today. NVIDIA, yeah. NVIDIA. Sorry. NVIDIA, he sat down with the NVIDIA CEO at their conference and talked about chain abstraction and how they're going to work with things, and that's why it went up. So if you see something like that, those narratives are going to do well. The overrated parts, maybe it is, but remember, it doesn't matter, like, how good they do. You have to understand that not all of these will make it, and a lot of them will crash. So for everybody out there who's trying to invest, just remember that if you think, like, I'm going to hold on forever and this is the right one, there's 10 in the lurk who want to take that spot. So just be careful.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Ben, how about you? First of all, is narrative investing something that you believe in? Is it something that you're paying close attention to? And if that is the case, are there narratives that you think perhaps are overrated, or maybe not all they're cracked up to be?
Well, I think Rob mentioned a lot of it. I think, like, in all the different sectors, like, there's like, projects that are actually, like, trying to develop in that field. Like, they're trying to develop gaming that incorporates crypto, or they're sort of with AI. There's also then, like, 100 others or 1,000 others that are just sort of putting it in their name, and it's sort of like a in name only. And at some point, people will recognize that they're not actually developing in that space; they're just sort of taking advantage of the hype. I think that, so my view is that narrative follows price and not the other way around, right? So, like, because I was just talking about it, and I just say the same thing every week. I want to share this screen about this. This is the most recent narrative and sort of the narrative stuff I've seen a lot of people talk about, and it's with Ethereum, And I don't know, did you guys see, like, I saw some like headlines recently about like, you know, like the SEC cracking down on Ethereum. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, and I think like a lot of people are like, oh no, like what does that mean? What about the spot ETF? All that stuff, right? And so some people are saying, well, now looks like, you know, like this is why Ethereum is weak, because the SEC is going after it, and because, you know, maybe the spot ETF won't be approved, but who knows? I mean, maybe it will be approved. My point is like those narratives are starting to creep up, right, as the Ether Bitcoin valuation is at sort of these low levels, right? And that's what happens. And I rather than looking at sort of the narratives that sort of naturally pop up when you get to those levels, just look at what sort of dictated the ETH Bitcoin valuation last cycle. It broke support when the Fed cut rates. Going back to the very first question, right? It broke support when the Fed cut, and it bottomed when QE returned. It was as simple as that, right? Break support when the Fed cut, bottom when QE returns. We haven't seen the cut. We haven't seen this. We haven't seen the Fed end rolling off assets from their balance sheet. But in the last meeting, they did say that they're going to start talking about tapering it, meaning like they're going to still reduce it, but not as much. So we probably will see that happen later this year. So that's something about like narrative investing that I could see. So I could see an example where, like, you know, where basically, you know, I've been very like bearish on the ETH Bitcoin valuation for, you know, the last, basically since the merge, even before the merge. And a lot of people have sort of, you know, have sort of fought against that idea. And then now I'm seeing people say that have fought against it. Oh no, now it's going to fall because the spot ETF is going to be rejected, or it's because the SEC is going to go after Ethereum. So my worry is that, like, I don't want people to fall for that narrative, right? Because that what could end up happening is, let's say the SEC goes after Ethereum, and the SEC doesn't really have a great track record right now with crypto anyway. So I don't really know why people care. But even if the spot ETF is rejected, let's say like you see the ETH Bitcoin valuation break and go down here. I could see a lot of people capitulating that were very bullish on it throughout this entire phase. But the problem is if the ETH Bitcoin valuation comes down here, it would likely represent weakness in the consumer, which would then likely lead to QE coming back. So right as people capitulate it, you know, as we're at the end of the business cycle, that's where looser monetary policy finally kicks in, and then it finally bottoms out. So I think you have to be careful with the whole narrative investing stuff. Like, I don't think it makes sense to say, all right, well, if the SEC is going after Ethereum, then that means, you know, you should think that Ethereum's not going to make it. Or if the spot ETF is not approved, that doesn't mean that Ethereum is not going to make it. I think that sort of narrative investing doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I think what's really happening is the narrative follows price and not the other way around. Because if the ETH Bitcoin valuation right now, where it's say like 0.09 instead of 0.05, no one would care about what the SEC is saying, you know? Like, everyone would just be super optimistic. But because it's down here, that's why people tend to care.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah, I think if ETH was stronger at the moment, if ETH, you know, had held 4K or whatever, then this news about the SEC supposedly investigating the Ethereum Foundation, you know, that I think that would have been shrugged off a lot more. Whereas, you know, given the position that ETH is in, as you say, Ben, it seems that people are a lot more spooked by that news than perhaps they should be.
Well, and it's not even for me, it's not even the USD valuation. I mean, the USD valuation is still doing pretty well, all things considered. It's the Bitcoin valuation is I think the bigger aspect of it that I think a lot of people are looking for. So I think that is kind of, it'd be kind of funny if ETH Bitcoin finally breaks support, all the haters finally capitulate, and then it bottoms.
Let's see. Okay, final question before we take a few viewer questions, etc. Just to go very quickly back to Memecoins, I just wanted to get your guys' takes on this. Let's say someone whipped up a meme coin, created a meme coin that was based on you. Is that something? How do you think you'd react? Would you lean into it? Would you push back? Would you try and ignore it? I'm just really curious to know. And don't worry, this isn't leading into something where I debut the fact that we've been building
the Guy coin, the CB coin.
Yeah. It's like, by the way, Guycoin is now available on a DEX near you. No, I'm just very curious to know how you guys would deal with that. Is that something that you would how would that impact you? Do you think? Rob, do you want to go first?
No, I want to hear what Ben has to say.
No, yes, good. Sorry, Ben. Go.
I was gonna say, I feel like we've kind of dealt with that already, because I feel like every few months, like, some platform pops up where they make it about like crypto influencers, and there's like something associated with every single crypto influencer. Like, I've seen that stuff pop up. Like, I've always just ignored it. But yeah, I see it pop up. I mean, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, it's a free market. People are going to do whatever they want, Yeah. I don't really care. I think people can have fun if they want and do what they're going to do. But I'm probably not going to be spending a lot of my own mental energy thinking about it.
Yeah. I would lean into it, as long as you're going to give me a cut, and then I can take that cut and actually put it into some different foundations that I think are worthwhile. And then, yeah, of course, right? I mean, if you want to do like charity and stuff, let's talk. But we have to understand that. I did this before with my DNews stake pool for Cardano, and I said, look, if you come into it, I'm going to do an airdrop of tomato coin, and people are like, what is that? I'm like, it's a worthless coin, and you're going to get a bunch of them. And I did. I airdropped them like 2 years ago, and they're like, what does this do? Nothing. It's the same thing as a meme coin. So yeah, if someone wants to do that, sure. But you have to understand that I get my cut, so I can give it to my charities.
Is that going to go on your DGen channel?
Yeah, I'll talk that up all day long, especially if I can get it to like Pro Techos, which is a great foundation here, and then Amigos de los Animales. Yeah, definitely, no problems.
I've got to put this up on the screen at the moment. We've had a great comment from a regular viewer. Coin Bureau DGen coin. The ticker would be CBDC. Just saying. Please, no one make that. Yeah, I think you're right, Ben. It's a free market, isn't it? You just got to let people do what they do. But it's just one of those crazy things about crypto. It's
you have something called Coin Bureau Club, right?
Yeah.
You should call it Coin Bureau Digital Club for CBDC.
No. This was so Panda Pie said this last couple of weeks ago. They said,
what was it?
Make a secondary channel, call it Coin Bureau DGen channel.
DGen channel. Okay.
That would have been perfect. We can talk about all these meme coins over there.
Okay. Well, if we ever need a rebrand, it's good to know. Okay.
As if you don't have enough channels, guys.
Yeah, we can always make some more channels. Okay, so let's get to things that viewers have been asking or saying, and there's a lot of people just saying stuff. Who knew? But there's a whole other angle to the flat Earth debate, Rob. Apparently, it's square. So I can't believe you didn't know that. M makes a good point here. And I think this is going back to what you were saying. I think he was posting this whilst you were talking about using Coinbase, Rob. Make crypto as easy to handle as fiat and banking apps. Make things easier for new users to understand. I think that's, I mean, we've talked about, I know I've ranted about UX before on crypto apps and sort of crypto in general, but I do honestly think that's something that is, and like I said, Coinbase does seem to be doing that. And what Ben, you were saying that you've got all this choice at the moment. Maybe sort of true adoption can only come when all this sort of choice, like Rob was saying. Rob was showing us his Coinbase screen, and he had the option to choose between Arbitrum and Base and Tron and what have you, and they were all free, which is great. But maybe we just need to abstract all of this away, and it just automatically chooses the cheapest, fastest chain available. Because does anyone outside of us crypto nerds really care? If it's cheap and fast, that's surely all.
It goes back to interoperability, right? Like you don't care about what you're using. You just want to use the thing that's the best, the cheapest, the most convenient.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Muji was asking, is BlackRock's new SEC filing to launch a tokenized investment fund making the markets bullish. Do you guys hear about this?
Yeah, I heard about it yesterday. Yep. And it's essentially their, this investment fund, they're going to try to tokenize just real world assets and kind of roll these things out, which we know this is actually going to happen. So like this is bullish for the industry, because anything that has to do with BlackRock and getting more and more into blockchain technology, of course, people will say, well, great. And then they want to do this, I believe, on the Ethereum network and kind of roll this whole thing out. But again, let's see how it all works. But this would be the same thing as like Alvara Protocol is trying to do. And they're essentially making it like a decentralized hedge fund. So when they do stuff like this, I mean, this could be great. And when big time institutions like BlackRock comes in, everybody talks about it. So yeah, this is good for the industry if it works out now, like Ben talked about, narrative and price.
Yeah. BlackRock seems to be just becoming more and more of a main character in crypto, doesn't it? Obviously, because it was sort of at the forefront of once it came in, jumped on board with the idea of a spot Bitcoin ETF. That was it. It was a question that's when it became a question of when, not if, didn't it? Mm-hmm. But it seems BlackRock is sort of having more and more of an effect on the industry. Now talking about tokenized real world assets, which is another narrative in itself.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. A question here from Tom. Guy, how much time do you guys take just to get away from crypto? I mean, my answer to that would be probably not enough. I know my wife definitely feels I should spend more time away from crypto. But guys, do you guys manage to get in plenty of non-crypto time? For instance, Ben, do you get enough time to play chess? For instance, is that something? Do you need more chess in your life?
I play it every day.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm not day trading or anything like that. I mean, I don't really care what the market does today. I mean, if Bitcoin were to drop 5K or go up 5K, it's not really going to change what I'm doing. So I don't need to. But I mean, with that said, I still look at the market a lot. I mean, like the first thing, I'm still sick.
You were doing so good, Ben. I was like, Ben, you sound so good today.
I know. The first thing I do in the morning, like, I mean, what's the first thing you do when you wake up and you check your phone? Like, do you go check your email? I don't. The first thing I do is I open up, the sort of the trading view stuff or whatever, and or CoinMarketCap, whatever, just some website, show me all the crypto prices. That's what I do. But I mean, I don't look at it and say, oh, well, look what's pumping, let me go buy that. Right. It's more just like, oh, what are people going to be talking about today type thing. Yeah, I think like I'm going to be going out of town in like a week or something. And so I'm probably going to try to get away from it a little bit then. But yeah, we probably don't get away from it enough, honestly.
Yeah, but Ben, I mean, you got 4 kids, so I'm assuming that you can only put so much into crypto and so much into chess, and then you got to step away from the Twitterverse and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot, especially in the evenings and like weekends. Like a lot of weekends, we're just going to like kids museums and like their sporting events, because they do like swim team and basketball and soccer and one of them wants to now do tennis. So like, yeah, I mean, like I'm pretty busy with all that stuff. I mainly just look at the crypto stuff. Like mostly it's like during the day, and then like after they go to bed is when I will mostly look at it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, like that's what's great about Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I mean, the things you can do without having to answer anybody is fantastic, right? And Bitcoin can give you those things, but it's not those things. And I think that's something to remember. And that's why we're in this industry, so we don't have to go and get slaved away at some 9-to-5 crap job.
Yeah, there's more important things in life than Bitcoin. I mean, I know that's blasphemy, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, in 50 years, my kids are going to care more about the time that I spent with them than what the price of Bitcoin is at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good lesson for everybody.
Yeah, very, very true. Gosh, I'm almost tempted to end it on that, because we're pretty much out of time, and I think that's a really wise words to finish the stream on. I was going to ask. I was going to bring up someone's question about quantum key encryption, but I think maybe we could talk about, quantum computing another time, because I think that's quite a deep thing to get into. But I would love to get your guys' take on the sort of quantum computing aspect at some point. But that's a topic for another stream. So anyway, gents, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for answering those questions so wonderfully. We'll be back next week. Where are we next week? Who's hosting?
Ben.
Ben. We will be on Ben's channel, Into the Cryptoverse, next week. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for joining us. I have seen your posts in the comments asking where Jessica is. So just for that, she'll be back next week. You can have Jessica instead. Fine, I'm not offended at all. I think it might have been Ben and Rob tweeting those counts as well. Anyhow, thank you guys for joining us. It's great to see you. We'll be back next week on Ben's channel. Thank you.
See ya.
Okay, and